Mayor LaToya, you're looking at Mayor LaToya Cantrell walking up to the site where she's expected to hold a press conference. That's NOFD Chief Tim McConnell, who has been at the forefront of this disaster, really. That's Helena Moreno, who's a city council member, Jason Williams, city council member, and they're about to give us an update on how they think things went today and what the next steps are. So in just a second, we will take a listen to the mayor and her staff tell us the latest.
Well, good evening. And I always start with thanking you all so much for your presence and reporting to the public every step of the way. We are here to inform you as it relates to the aftermath of the explosion. We know that we are safer now than we have been in the past 8 days. We'll fill you in about that. We are also moving now as it relates to bringing our victims out of that building. We also have experienced a sewer line that we're focusing on as well. So we'll run through the various stages, and I'm going to ask our Chief Tim McConnell to begin taking us through. Chief?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I would tell you, I do not think it could have gone much better. If you look at the front crane, it went down exactly as we would have expected it to do. And the rear crane, the back portion came down right outside the building where we already had a partial collapse and stuff in the street. That's exactly where it landed. As the mayor mentioned, it damaged a sewer line. That was the least of our worries. We prepared for it. The Surgeon Water Board had a plan to reroute it. They're doing that now to ensure that we're good. But the gas line that we were worried about and the electric lines, we believe they are A-OK. But remember, we shut them down, so we're powering them back up, making sure, and doing testing. We've done gas testing in the neighborhood. We haven't detected any leaks, and we think we're going to be fine. That is really, really good. Right now, we're going through with engineers assessing the building, and we'll move forward to what is our priority at this point. As the mayor said, we're way better than we were. If you remember, our objective was to get these down, make it safer, so we can go to our next objective, which is recovery, to give these families closure.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief. That's it. All right, that's pretty much our report at this time. And like every time, we take your questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. WDSU and then CBS News. How did you get this crane down, the one that's hanging over Canal Street? Like that, it actually, from a layperson's terms, it looks worse now than what it did before. I know you said it went as planned, but how do you get this crane down?
It's way better than what it looks, okay? I know what it looks like, but if you remember, we talked about cutting the crane, remember, and then it hooking on the building. It's exactly what it did. And then the counterbalances on that, going right into the building at the base of the crane, it's exactly where they are. So it hooked on the building like we wanted it. It's very stable in the remember, very initial assessment. We don't have people in the building yet, but that's our initial assessment. The way you get it down is you take another crane, you hook to it, and you cut it in pieces one at a time till you get it down. But remember, that stability of it being at that height, everything now is in the construction site. And that was our goal, and that crane did exactly what we expected it to do.
This is for the mayor. Step to the microphone. Thank you, Mayor. I know you've been very concerned about the families, the victims still inside. What is your timeline for being able to retrieve these bodies and bring these families to closure?
Well, my timeline is right now, is today. We have our firm that is on the ground, Griffin, with the mission being to remove our victims from the site. And that is, they're preparing to do that right now with debris removal and the like, but they're making sure that the assessments are complete and therefore being able to move forward with search and extraction.
What do you think they will be able to get in today to remove the bodies?
I do believe that. I'm absolutely hopeful this will happen. This is what I have asked to happen, moving from the explosion to the very next step is search and extraction. We were able to put a monitor on one of our victims that we knew where he was lodged to help us identify and pull him out of rubble as soon as possible.
And we do believe, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
We believe both victims are exactly where they were prior to it.
Yeah.
And that was our goal.
Right.
Was to make sure that we could get to them and to not let it drop in that area. We talked about that at a press event. That was our goal, and we succeeded at that. And so now we can get to that. But the building is still very unstable, right? So, but that is our goal. That's where we are now. And they are actually removing the crane that fell in the street, the part of the crane that fell in the street. They're removing that to get that clear so we can get whatever we need in to start picking at the building and get to our victims.
Thank you.
WWL, Fox 8, and then Associated Press.
Was there damage to other buildings in the area or any other infrastructure?
Well, right now we know that the Sanger Theater, there were 3 windows.
3 windows.
3 windows broken at the Sanger Theater. The utilities are intact at Sanger, and no information in terms of other buildings that have been damaged based on the assessments that have been underway.
And it sounds like the top of the crane closest to Iberville lodged in the street.
Oh,
Is that
Charlie
accurate?
went straight on in. Yes, lodged very well.
So the weights, what we would had hoped that we would actually go into the building. It missed it by, a few feet, and then the top part of the crane laid out in the street. So the weights landed very close to the building, right outside of it, hitting the sidewalk and the street there, where all that other rubble had already been. And unfortunately, there was a sewer line there. But once again, remember, we never did talk about protecting a sewer line, I don't think. We talked about a gas and electric line. Infrastructure that's very hard to repair. The sewer line, the water board, simply rerouting it right now.
But the padding that was placed on the utility line as well as gas, they worked as they were expected to do. So that's a good thing.
And finally, for my questions, I know you said you had concerns about the wall close to Canal Street. I know people haven't been in there yet. Do you still have concerns about that wall, given the crane is kind of leaning on it at this point?
It didn't move, and it wasn't stable before, so I don't imagine it's any more stable. But we did shake the building pretty good, and it didn't come down, so that gives us a little bit. But it'll always be a precaution of ours as we go about doing this recovery. And once again, engineers I had authorized right before I walked up here for engineers, my team, to get engineers in there so they could start doing a little bit more evaluation for us on the suitability.
So, is it safe to say that this is still not a secure situation? What are the potential dangers, and what does that mean?
The question is whether or not the building is still secure.
That is safe to say.
So, remember, the building collapsed. So it's still a dangerous building. We don't know what caused that, and there are plenty of people, and we've helped everyone who needed access, the proper people who needed access, OSHA and engineers and the people who are responsible to get their information that they needed. We are looking to, now that we got those cranes down, because that's what caused our evacuation zone to be so big. So as our teams are ensuring that it's safe to move forward, you will start to see this collapse rather quickly. I don't want to give you a timeline, it's just too soon, but you'll start to see our evacuation zone collapse rather quickly. We do have our busiest work day with traffic tomorrow morning, and our goal is to try and get to that point where we can shrink it pretty quick. Obviously, it won't go away totally because we still have the other things to take care of and get down.
Absolutely, and just let me be very clear. The expectation and the next mission after we remove our people from the site will be full demolition. That is the next mission that we will be faced with.
And what are the dangers and hazards surrounding that demolition?
To be determined. Okay, that will come forth as it relates to assessments that are ongoing now and moving into that next phase.
Associated Press, and then WDSU, and WWL.
Is there any indication that the crane made the situation with the rest of the building worse? I mean, are you still assessing that where the crane fell the way it did, or?
Well, where the cranes were was the most unstable part. The building had been around the cranes and it was all gone. You saw that. And so it may have made it worse, but not as bad as if they had come down in the middle of Canal Street or Rampart. So, yeah, they certainly, as it came down with that weight, did some damage to the building in those immediate areas. And once again, we'll let the engineers do their studies and see what the impact is.
But it doesn't appear to be within the area where we have our people. And again, making it that path forward for us to do search and extraction, which is the most important thing at this time.
You touched on what I was going to ask about full demolition. Will the city issue a demolition order for this site? When could that be? And does that mean all the way to the ground, or will you leave the parking structure still standing?
The assessment will determine what those next steps will be towards a full demolition. Once we have information relative to that, we will absolutely make you aware of it.
But just to be clear, this is not going to be salvaged. This will be at least demolished, what we're looking at right now.
Oh, to be clear, I don't want anything salvaged on this site. We want a complete demolition. And while it's under the authority right now, the city of New Orleans, that's our focus, and that will be our mission. Thank you.
WWL and the Evacuation.
What are the next steps tonight?
Ensuring the scene's safe, getting the street clear where that crane came down, and then being able to shrink the, starting to assess how we're going to go about our recovery, which is underway with the engineers in there right now, and then starting to shrink the perimeter so we can get, this is the CBD, this is the business district, so we can start getting some traffic moving again.
But no additional
our
demo
people-
today?
What is that?
No additional demolition today?
Not that we know of, but again, the assessment will take, we'll move forward with assessing as we're doing now, and that leads into recovery. That's what it's about right now, recovering our people who are still in that building.
Yeah.
There were concerns about air quality. Is there any sort of update on that? Did anybody need to seek medical attention?
And the question they're asking now is
Nope,
about air
no
quality.
one. Not that we've been made aware of. We have had the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality on site with us. They will remain here, not only this evening, but tomorrow. I was made aware from our director who is with us that we are in good shape. Dr. Avegno, I know you were touching me. Were you touching me? Oh, okay.
She whispered in my
Yeah, as Mayor Cantrell said, we've been in contact with DEQ. They've been on site for several days. They have a mobile van that some of you may have seen that's going to remain on site just as a precaution for the next day to measure. They have reported no change, no harmful levels of any sort of air quality in the area. But again, they're going to continue to monitor.
And I think it's worth adding, we had units
Absolutely.
on standby, street cleaners, street sweepers, and a plan to move in very quickly before we let people back in, even to the evacuation zone and the exclusion zone. And the immediate assessments, they went out, nothing got out of our evacuation zone. And so, remember, there's a new building. You're not talking about a building where you would have had asbestos, lead, and that stuff. This was all concrete and steel. So the good news is we didn't have that, and very, very little dust.
Two more questions, Loyola.
With possible rain and maybe thunderstorms tomorrow, are there any concerns revolving around that tomorrow?
Yeah, we have, been made aware of the potential thunderstorms that are on their way. But with the building being more secured now than ever before, it doesn't appear to be a threat to us.
We'll keep an evacuation zone enough. Remember, we talked about how the rain can cause things to slide. Our evacuation zone will take into consideration if anything from the highest points in here slide.
Have we gotten an indication now that the cranes are down if the recovery mission is going to be successful, if there are any other maybe debris or other...
Well, let's put it this way. The recovery will be successful.
Yeah.
We'll get to them. The question becomes, what's it going to take to do it? They're exactly where they were. You haven't seen much change in the building except where the cranes came down. And so it'll just see how long it takes. And we're going to have to pull a lot of debris that's hanging overhead to get to them. But we will succeed. Trust me.
Absolutely.
Last question, Lynn.
So, I'm sorry, is this crane, where does the operation stand with this crane that is hooked on the building? Are you taking that down separately prior to any sort of demolition, or will that come down?
That depends on the engineer's assessment. Whatever they think is the best plan, that depends on their assessment. Whether you try and take that part down or bring it down, when the building comes down.
Thank you all.
You guys have shot drone video. Are you going to make that available? Is that possible?
It will be available eventually. It's public record, right? So, but that's for the engineers to try and make their assessment.
Okay. Thank you all again so much. We appreciate you. All right.
Good job, Chief. All the way around.
Great. We just heard from city leaders.